Hi, I'm Ashley Jones and welcome to Connected. On today's show we have three wonderful guests in the studio. With me is Bicycle Queensland's Development Officer Andrew Demack, renowned ABC presenter and BMAG writer Spencer Howson, and burlesque performer Eva Vivacia. We also have an informative tour of the Museum of Brisbane from earlier in the week. But now I'm joined by the Development Officer of Bicycle Queensland, Andrew Demack. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Well, firstly, tell us what Bicycle Queensland is about in terms of when it was established and why it's been formed.
So it's an advocacy organisation. It's been around for about 25 years. In the mid-80s it was started, and just a group of people who got together and thought it'd be a good idea to advocate for a better deal for cyclists across Queensland. We're now 14,500 members, and we run events and we advocate on behalf of cyclists to governments and councils about a better deal for cyclists. We also provide insurance to our members and those sorts of things.
So what is the better deal about? What was going on that you really were struggling with and felt perhaps a little bit restricted?
Well, there's been sort of booms and busts in cycling over all of that time, and there's been like a steady recognition over time that active transport is really important to combat all sorts of things in our society, but mostly I think because people enjoy riding their bikes and there's perceptions about the safety of riding a bike. We've surveyed our members over time, and particularly our female members feel unsafe often riding their bikes around Brisbane, around the regional cities of Queensland, the Gold Coast, etc.
Unsafe in what way?
Cars going too close to them is the primary thing. And so over the years, both governments and councils have sort of recognised this fact and have started to provide, where possible, separated facilities where we separate on the major trunk routes the motorised traffic from the active transport traffic. And so you'll see facilities around Brisbane where there are bikeways. Well, there's a number of bikeways and there's a number of places where there are on-road bike lanes, but still there's a demand for more of that sort of stuff.
So that separation from the main traffic flow with vehicles and bicycles, I guess it's always a contentious issue, isn't it? Bicycles believe they have the right to be on the road, the cars have the right on the road. What is that common ground?
Well, I think for all of us, we're just wanting to get around and get to where we're wanting to go in safety. And so the message we often put out is it's important for vulnerable road users and vulnerable users of other spaces like off-road paths to be respected by the other users. So in the situation of bike paths, we always say to the cyclists, they need to be respectful of pedestrians who they're sharing the space with, because the pedestrians are the vulnerable users in that situation. On the road, obviously the cyclists are more vulnerable than the motorists, and we feel important for both sides to show respect and to treat each other as you would want to be treated. This is one of the things that's been happening over time. Everybody knows the cyclists now, and so you can't say that these people who are on the road are somebody else. They're somebody's son, somebody's wife, somebody's grandmother. You know, sure. There's all sorts of connections that all of our motorists have with cyclists, so it's important we treat each other like people.
How many cyclists do we have in Queensland?
Well, about 800,000.
Okay.
There's 40% of the adult population of Queensland own a bike, and of those 40%, about half of them ride their bike regularly. So there's a lot of bikes rusting away in garages, but there's also a lot of bikes being used on the paths and roads of Queensland.
Just quickly then, the other aspect of it away from commuting and city safe, those city bike services, those kind of things.
Yep.
But when it comes to competition, there's still a lot of activities. Just quickly, what are some of the ones you've got coming up?
Oh, well, there's all sorts of participation events now. So there's a small group of people who want to race their bikes, and more power to them, and they want to get to the Olympics or whatever they want to do, and that's great fun. But the big growth is in participation events. So end of June, the Multiple Sclerosis Society has Brisbane to the Bay. We have an event in October, on October the 20th, the Brisbane to the Gold Coast Cycle Challenge, which has usually 6,000, 7,000, 8,000 cyclists riding from Brisbane to the Gold Coast. Those sort of events are growing in popularity every year. That's
great. Well, lovely to chat with you, and thank you very much for coming on the show.
Thank you.
And don't forget, you can find out more information at thewsbq.org.au. Next up after the break, we'll have a special tour of the Museum of Brisbane. Stay with us. Welcome back to Connected. Well, earlier in the week we were allowed the opportunity to see a little more of the Museum of Brisbane with its curator Peter Denham. But first, let's take a trip somewhere new. Frances, where are you taking yourself to today?
Well, actually I thought we might go cruising on the rivers of Europe.
Oh, okay. I can live with that.
I think a lot of people could too,
Yes.
if they had a few dollars in their pocket, yes.
But look, we're seeing a lot of advertising on television promoting it. So is it the real kind of flavour of the month?
It is, and has been probably for about 2 years now. I think it will continue to be because a lot of the cruise ships are developing. We're getting more ships on the rivers. We've got new destinations coming out, etc. Yeah, I think it's very popular and will continue.
So is it affordable? Because it looks beautiful, looks fantastic, but I imagine it hits your back pocket.
Well, look, it does. I mean, you can have cruises, say, for 11 days from $5,500.
See, I told you it was a lot.
It is a fair bit, but if you look at a per diem, per day, we're looking at accommodation, transport, meals, and a lot of tours. So yes, it does, you know, maybe 400 plus a day, but if you try to do it by yourself and fly to the destinations and then book a cruise, I don't think you get it for much less than what the wholesalers are putting it together for. And there's lots of wholesalers out there, so you can do a lot of shopping around.
Okay, so that is an important point, that you can
Oh,
check them all out.
definitely. I mean, you wouldn't take your car to a mechanic without getting quotes and all this sort of thing. So make sure you do get prices. Look on the web as well, and then go to your local travel agent. They're a wealth of information. Don't sort of bypass them, because if you're going to spend, I mean, the prices are from in any brochure, and that's usually lower down on the ship. Yes. So if you want a really good cabin, it's going to cost more than, you know, what's advertised in the brochure. So you could be up for a couple, about $20,000 for the river cruise. Okay. But it's memories that you're getting.
Yeah, well, the memories, and I guess it's also, as I think the advertising points out, we understand, is the fact that you unpack, you're on board, and then that's it.
I think that's fantastic. That's what would sell it to me, I must admit. You're not lugging suitcases from airports to hotels to train stations. You've got your accommodation, your transport, all there in one, which is fantastic. And they have wonderful chefs on board too, so you'll be trying different cuisine as you're going through different countries.
Now, the other side of it too, of course, is that you are building a relationship with other people who are on board. Yes. So that must make the trip even more enjoyable. Well,
it does, and I like to think, I would prefer to go on a cruise ship that that didn't have all Australians on it. Nothing against Australians, I love travelling with Australians, but I also...
We live with them.
We live with them, I know.
That's right.
But I would love to travel with, you know, some Italians, some South Americans, and you know, experience a bit of their culture while I'm experiencing Europe as well.
You just want to get onto Ricky Martin, don't you?
Well, who knows?
But moving on. So it sounds like a great part of the holiday plan, and of course you can explore other destinations then whilst there.
Exactly, and you know, they are lifetime friendships that you make usually on these sorts of cruises. One little tip that some friends gave me who've just come back is that whilst lunch is also included in the package deal on the ship, by the time you get back to the boat, have your lunch, there's really not enough time to go back into the city to explore. So my advice to the viewers out there is, you know, go to a little cafe, experience a cafe, and then go exploring more to see more. Don't just stay on the ship for a long time.
Okay, great advice, thank you. We'll move our journey over to the Museum of Brisbane, and we'll take a look at that right now.
Welcome to the Museum of Brisbane. My name's Leanne Kelly. I'm the Program Manager here at the museum. It's fantastic to be back in City Hall. The museum was at another location for 3 years while City Hall was restored. So for those 3 years we were planning our return here, but it is fantastic to be back in City Hall. The public have had such an amazing response to being back in City Hall. The facility that we have here on the roof is a purpose-built facility, so it was not here previously. The museum was in City Hall previously, we were on the ground floor. And so to come into a new purpose-built facility for us, to be part of the restored City Hall is fantastic, and the public have embraced it. We've had enormous visitation in the short time that we've been open. There are a number of current exhibitions on display here at the museum. The first one, not that there's any order, but the first one is Light Fantastic. It's 25 years this year since Expo 88 for Brisbane. So we thought to have an exhibition that celebrates not only our relaunch, because we're 10 years old this year, later this year, but our relaunch and 25 years of Expo. So that's the largest show on at the moment. It's across our two main galleries. Another show that's on at the moment is Panoramas. It's in the Clem Jones Gallery, and Panoramas looks at fantastic photographic panoramas of Brisbane from the 1860s right through to now, that really shows you how amazing the transformation of the city has been over that time. And last but absolutely not least is The River, A History of Brisbane, and that's a longer show for us. It's quite a dense and a lot of material, that exhibition. It's one of our favourite exhibitions to do because it's a combination of visual arts and social history, and it'll be on for a longer period of time, and that has been really well received. The clock tower tours are incredibly popular. There was access to the clock tower before restoration, obviously, but with the museum now built around the base of the clock tower and access to the clock tower 7 days a week, the tickets for the clock tower have been sold out every day since we've reopened. The Light Fantastic exhibition is a 25-year celebration of Expo. As a museum, a lot of people have said to us over the years, you're the Museum of Brisbane. Expo 88 was the making of Brisbane. Are you going to do an exhibition? And we waited because we needed the right story, and a couple of years ago we were approached by the producer of the parades to say, I have this amazing personal collection of the parades, and the parades was such a big part of people's memory of Expo, the lunchtime parade and the night parade. So we knew we'd found our story. We knew we'd found the story that we wanted to tell people about Expo, because like myself, there are a lot of people who grew up in Brisbane when Expo was on, so they have lots of memories. But we wanted to tell people another story that they might not have ever known, and the story of the creation of these parades and how they came to be, and the amazing creative capacity of the city at that time hadn't been told before. So it's an exciting part of this exhibition for us. The Museum of Brisbane is 10 years old this October. We're very excited about that. Previous to that, it was in another incarnation. The Brisbane City Gallery has been part of City Hall for over 50 years. So it was an evolution 10 years ago to have the Museum of Brisbane. We moved out of City Hall for 3 years because City Hall was being restored, and we've returned now to a purpose-built facility on the roof. The Museum of Brisbane exists to tell the stories of Brisbane, the people, the places, the history of Brisbane, the stories of now, the stories of the past, and the stories of what we really hope to be. So we're very excited to have such rich material around us all the time. We're not an institution or a museum that collects. We care for the City of Brisbane collection on behalf of Brisbane City Council, but we're not active collectors. So what we do is we partner with communities and other organisations all the time to tell really rich stories. Like with Light Fantastic, we were approached with a personal collection that became the backbone of an exhibition. The wonderful thing about the River exhibition is it leads directly to our first opening show of 2014, which is The Many Lives of Moreton Bay. So we're very excited to be working even now on that exhibition. The museum program is continually evolving, so come and visit us soon. We're open 7 days a week from 10 till 5 every day. And if you want to stay connected with what we're doing, visit us on our website, museumofbrisbane.com.au.
After this quick break, I'll chat with radio's #1 man, Spencer Howson, about his ever-evolving media career. Back after this. Welcome back. Here with me in the studio is Spencer Howson, ABC Breakfast Radio host and popular BMag column writer. How are you, Spencer?
I'm well, thanks Ashley. Thanks for having me.
Great to have you with us. And of course, being the voice of ABC local radio breakfast, that's been, how many years have you been doing that now?
Well, 8 years in a row this time around, 4 years before that, so 12 years of getting up at 3:20 in the morning.
Yeah. So how do you find that? I mean, is it the way you're wired?
Oh,
do you
man,
love
every single day I get a taxi to work, I get a bus home. Every day the taxi driver, usually a different driver, asks me the same question. And I always say to them, well, you know, you get up, because cabbies start at the same time. I say, you get up at this time as well, but you work 12 hours. I get home by lunchtime. I can't complain. It's okay. No one wants to get up at 3:20 in the morning, but I get the afternoons to myself, so...
What about the weekend? Do you still wake up early?
No, I don't. No, this is always what people think, but yeah. No. 10 o'clock normally. Yeah. The weekend just gone, I was still in bed just before 11 o'clock on the Sunday. I can assure you, no problem sleeping on the weekends.
Okay. So now in terms of the breakfast program though, it's a very busy shift for any radio station. And of course, being #1, and I know you don't go crying about that.
Touch wood.
Yeah, but it's been for quite a while. What is it you think is the secret to what you're doing?
Well, you can get information from so many different places these days. You can get Hollywood goss on the internet, and our strength really is local news, timely news. So when you wake up in the morning, has something happened overnight that you should know about? So this is what we do. So local, timely, Brutal is a word that we used within the breakfast show team. If something only requires 3 minutes, we only spend 3 minutes on it. We don't harp on and on and on. And so we have a very, I guess, tightly formulated philosophy in our minds. And every day, even after 12 years of doing it, after the show, we sit down, we analyse, we're critical of each other, and we say, how can we do it better? We never say, right, we've been doing this for 12 years, see you tomorrow morning at 5, let's all go home at 8 o'clock.
Sure.
So I think we take it very seriously.
So why radio as a career path for you in the first place?
Well, I think I can put it down to when I came out from the UK as an 8-year-old with my mum. I was never much into writing letters to my dad back home in the UK, but he had given me a cassette recorder for Christmas just before we came out here, and so I recorded letters to him on cassette. And then at primary school, my best friend was Kyle Sanderlands, and we used to sit on the back deck writing radio shows, and then we would take this cassette recorder to school and get our friends to record them. Of course, now he presents breakfast radio in Sydney, and I present breakfast radio here. He earns $7 million a year, and I work for the ABC. So absolutely identical career paths, as you can see. But if you put those two things together, I just knew from then on that radio was what I wanted to do.
Now, on air, you are very open about your family, where a lot of celebrities would tend to keep things very private. Why do you do that?
I'm probably not as open as you think. There's a difference between private and personal and private. For example, until very recently, our 12-year-old son was never photographed. You would never have seen him photographed anywhere. We had at movie previews and theatre previews, photographers come up and try to take his photo, and we said no, not till he's old enough to make that decision for himself. And he's 12 now, or just turned 13, so he's quite happy now generally to be in the public eye. So there's a lot that you don't hear, but I think that if you're going to connect with someone on radio, and especially a breakfast announcer, first voice you hear in the morning, someone that is a friend, a family, someone who's at the end of your kitchen table, I think you want to know a little bit about them and their interests. So people know that I like Doctor Who, for example,
we do know
and that I like Survivor. But there's a lot that you don't know as well.
Now, what does the future look like for you? Because I guess
is there something that you know? That
no, I haven't been speaking to management, but I guess there is a point where you would probably start to feel like you've achieved what it is that you want to achieve. What would be those kind of hopes that you have for the future?
Look, I was blessed in that when I was a teenager listening to 4QR as the ABC was, what I wanted to do was present a talk music show on ABC radio. So I achieved that goal at 21. I became the breakfast announcer at the ABC at 24, and I haven't had an ambition since. It's a terrible thing to admit. Or maybe it just means that I'm very happy doing what I'm doing. But I've just turned 41. Do I want to, for the next 25 years, present the breakfast show? I don't know, but I'm happy to do it.
Yep. And I guess
tomorrow,
it's an
next week,
point,
next year. So.
Because our society tends to always look at you need to move on, but where you're happy and
yeah,
obviously
exactly.
doing a great
It suits
job.
me. The lifestyle's great. People seem to love what we're doing. I love what I'm doing. If I weren't doing that, I wouldn't get to be on your TV show today.
That's
so,
right, exactly. Yeah.
So no plans other than just doing it better and better every day.
Well, that's fantastic. Well, we certainly wish you all the best, and we look forward to seeing those ratings staying at #1
Thanks,
at the
Ashley.
ABC. Thanks very much, Spencer. And don't forget, you can tune in for Breakfast with Spencer from 5 a.m. weekdays on 612 ABC Local Radio. Keep an eye out for your next B-Mag also. Now, next up with me, I have accomplished burlesque performer Eva Vivacia. But first, let's see what's happening around town. International music legend Engelbert Humperdinck performs at the QPAC Concert Hall July 5. His music career spans more than 80 albums of music, so expect this show to be jam-packed full of classics and memories. On the Aussie music front, electro-pop outfit The Goldfields hit up Alhambra Lounge in the Valley on July 6 as part of their Black Sun tour. The band has recently been overseas for a number of months and were named as one of MTV's Artists to Watch in 2013. The Queensland Ballet's production of Giselle wraps up this week in the Playhouse at QPAC, with final performances on July 5 and 6. Giselle is a heart-rending tale of love, remorse and forgiveness, which is set to touch your heart. The National Theatre of Great Britain's smash hit production Warhorse comes to Brisbane for a 2-week season at the QPAC Lyric Theatre. That's on from July 6. Lifestyle puppets will tell the story of Joey, the beloved horse of a boy called Albert, who was sold to the cavalry at the outbreak of World War I and shipped to France. And the Creative Generation Excellence Awards in Visual Arts Showcase continues at the Gallery of Modern Art until mid-August. This annual exhibition showcases the outstanding achievements of senior visual art students from schools throughout Queensland and is sure to be a delight for art lovers of all ages. Don't forget to stay connected through our website and Facebook page for more events. Well, joining me now is Eva Vivacia, cabaret and burlesque performer. Welcome.
Welcome, thank you.
It's great to have you on the show. And I guess firstly, what was the motivation for you, I guess, to get into cabaret and burlesque?
Well, I have been lucky enough to be surrounded by extroverts and carnies and performers all my life, ever since I was a little girl. I don't believe I had much choice in the matter, being surrounded by such creative, expressionist musicians since being so little. I do believe it very much shaped how I view the world.
Sure.
And it was just one of those things that I wanted to be one of them when I grew up.
And that's very strongly through your family line.
Absolutely, absolutely. My great-grandmother was a ballroom dancer. She turned down the opportunity to go to the Americas to stay in London and wed and have children, as you do back in those days. My father is a street performer, stuntman and actor. So when he would go to work, I would go along with him and play various characters depending on what was required of his job on that particular weekend.
And who would you say influences your work today?
Who influences my work today? Personally, I find most of my inspiration comes from the music that I listen to. Everything dating back from yesteryear, classic tunes, pre-1960s, a little bit of rockabilly, a little bit of psychobilly. Rita Hayworth, I am a big fan of her films, and Dita Von Teese for a nice, classic, sumptuous form of burlesque. She's famous for a reason.
Absolutely. And so in terms of its popularity in Australia, how popular is it?
I think it's huge. There's also room for more. On a state-by-state basis, Melbourne and Sydney have residential burlesque locations where you can go almost any day of the week and you're guaranteed to find some quality practiced burlesque. Brisbane is booming. You just need to know where to look, but you can definitely find some burlesque or cabaret every weekend in Brisbane, and that's what I love. I'm looking forward to seeing a permanent venue that would house burlesque at every opportunity, but that remains to be seen.
That's still to come. Okay, let's take a look at you in action.
Got your mind to have no regrets. Recline yourself, resign yourself, you're through.
Well, fantastic work, and I guess only a little sample there, but that was part of a competition. Do you enter a lot of competitions?
It does seem that any opportunity that comes my way, I do have a tendency to pounce on it, yes. My first burlesque solo I put together for a competition, which was Brisbane's Queen of Seduction. I was lucky enough to be awarded that particular competition, which was voted by the audience, mind you. So 10 performing artists with an audience of 70.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you
fantastic.
very much.
Yeah. And so what does the future hold for you? What's your sort of more current plans?
My current plans, well, just recently I tried my hand at being choreographer and director for a burlesque bordello production as part of the Anywhere Theatre Festival. I am also going to be an MC, or Mistress of Ceremonies as I like to call it, for an upcoming show called Opalesque, which is a tribal belly dance fusion production coming up on the 20th of June. And then the following month, in July, I'm donating my performance time and skill to a very worthy cause, Bang on a Boa, which is raising money for brain cancer, to be held at Cloudland in the Valley in July.
Fantastic. Well, that's wonderful. Lovely to have met you. Thank you so much for coming in on the show.
Thank you very much, Ashley.
Well, that is it for today. Thank you to our guests Andrew Demack, Peter Denham, Spencer Howson and the delightful Eva Vivacia. And thank you for joining us today. Come back at the same time next week to stay connected.